Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to learn our third stitch together. In the US, it's called a half double crochet, while in the UK, it's called a half treble crochet. So, without further delay, let's crochet. To get started with the swatch, go ahead and chain 12. Then we'll move on to the stitch. Now for the half double crochet, we're going to start the same way we did with the double crochet by yarning over our hook. So after we yarn over our hook, we're going to half double crochet into that third chain from our hook. So again, this does not count as a chain. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we'll insert our hook into that third chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, and you'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, and we're going to pull through all 3 loops. All right, and that's your first half double crochet. So again, let's yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch or the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Now we'll do it one more time slowly. Yarn over your hook, insert your hook into the next chain, which is right here. Yarn over, pull up a loop. And then whenever you're pulling through your 3 loops, it might help to take your thumb and your middle finger and just pull down on your foundation chain. Even if it looks like you're making your gaps a little bit big, don't worry about it because it will just straighten out later. So go ahead and pull down on your foundation chain, yarn over, and pull that strand through. And there you have it. So I'll do this slow a couple more times. All right, and so we just reached the end of our row. And again, this knot right here is the slip knot from the beginning. For row 1, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 half double crochet in the first row. All right, now let's move on to working in rows with the half double crochet. Now we're going to chain 2 and turn your work. And because this chain 2 does not count as a stitch, we will half double crochet into that very first stitch here. So again, yarn over, insert your hook into that very first stitch, making sure that you go under both loops here. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and you'll have those 3 loops. And again, you can pull down on your first row to make it easier to pull through those 3 loops. And there you go. Now again, yarn over your hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And just continue repeating that down the row. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. All right, and now we've reached our last stitch, and I just wanted to mention here that this here is your very last stitch. So we're going to work into this stitch. So that was our last stitch, and now we have our chain 2 from the beginning of the row. These are the 2 chains that we skipped on our foundation chain. So I just want you to know we are not working into that stitch. We're just going to ignore it, pretend it's not there. So your last half double crochet will be that very first half double crochet from the first row. Hopefully that makes sense. Now for row 3 and each row forward, we're just going to repeat row 2. So for row 3, we're going to chain 2 and turn your work and half double crochet into that very first stitch and in each stitch across. All right, so I'm going to half double crochet row by row until I reach about 7 rows. And then we'll count our stitches and rows together. Okay, so here we have our swatch of half double crochet. If you didn't already notice, the screen is a little bit darker just so I could help you see the stitches a little bit better. Here's our first row of half double crochet, and here's the second row. So you can see this is the front facing stitch. So this is what it looks on the front side, and this is what it looks on the back side. So that's how you can kind of identify the front and the back of the stitch. This will help you to count your rows in the future. So here's row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, and row 7. And to count the stitches, we can either count from the top or we can count the post. So because these stitches aren't as small as the single crochet, it's easier to count the post stitch. So you could do either one. So first, let's count by the V stitch at the top. So we'll start with this one. And this is where we tied off our work, so this is not a stitch. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And this chain 2, remember this does not count as a stitch. Now if you want to count by the post, let's start with this one. So we have 1, again we're completely ignoring that chain 2. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that is how you count your stitches and rows for the half double crochet. Okay, so it is officially time for your next challenge. For today's challenge, what you're going to do is create the same swatch except a little bit bigger. You can find the practice instructions for this challenge inside the workbook under Lesson 8. Follow along with what I did in this tutorial by chaining 12, half double crocheting into the third chain from your hook and each chain down. Then continue half double crocheting row by row until you reach row 15. And if you want to keep going, go ahead and keep going. As I've said about 1,000,000 times, the more you practice, the better you'll get. And remember, don't rip out your work, or at least take a picture before you do. That way you can see how far you've really come, even if it's just a few days apart. I promise you're going to be impressed.